Hello and welcome back to the quarterfinals. My name is Interjection and this is game number 4 between Garja and Challe in a best of 7 for, of course, PK Clan tournament number 4. So, in the north of the map here we have Challe in the colour orange today, like he has been in every other game in this series so far, the colour orange, but playing as British and finding a 90 food treasure right off the bat. That's a very nice one to have in your base because, of course, it is going to increase the speed at which you can age up and definitely make you a little bit more competitive in whatever you choose to do, since you get to the colonial age faster. And British, as a civilization that likes to boom, getting up quicker means that they can send, well, he hasn't selected a deck, but there will be 700 wood in that deck. Send that bit sooner, start mana spamming for, of course, the free settler, which will spawn out of this mana once it is constructed. Here, though, could be going for a second mana, but then again could be going for an early market. We'll see what he chooses to do. He does have a coin crate on the floor there, so if he is going for a market, he's going the wrong way about it, since, of course, you can build the market, first of all, with the wood that you do start with, and then buy some more wood at that market using your coin, with which you can then get the hunting dogs upgrade, and you can build a manor house, though you probably will still have to collect a tiny bit more wood and coin to do that, but not actually going for a market at all here, just going for a second manor house. And as we can see, actually this coin crate, I believe he did actually collect some. He collected 60 coin out of that crate, so accidentally doing that, of course, leaving that crate on the floor really, because 40 coin extra is not going to help him, and that 60 coin he collected doesn't really need either. But here, finding 80 food, not a bad thing at all. The Aztec war chief, they're coming in to steal it at the last moment. The Guardian isn't dead yet, but who is going to get it? He needs to kill the Guardian off, taking double damage from both people attacking him. Crack shotting the Guardian, going in at the last moment. Who's going to get the treasure? 80 food to Challe, not too bad at all. 80 food and 90 food, really going to help him out in this matchup. Aztecs, as you can see, I haven't even introduced the other player yet, and we know what civilization he's playing. He's going to lose his war chief, though. Not his war chief, he's going to lose his explorer. Not too good. And the Aztec will actually receive double experience points for killing him there, because that is part of the Aztec bonus. What he could have done is perhaps task the explorer to shoot the bear. The bear might have killed him, though I do think he's a bit far away for that to have happened. But if the bear had killed him, then Mother Nature would be getting the experience when you'd be denying the Aztec player. Here, the Aztec player now going to convert a Guardian and go in for 135 XP. Not too bad at all. And Challe collecting up that food crate. That would have been tragic if he had not noticed that. Anyway, 2 manas, no markets. I do prefer the build with the markets. That is my personal choice, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. But we are 2 minutes 30 into the game. Let's introduce the other player. Here we have, in the south of the map, in the colour red, Garja, playing as the Aztecs, as we have already established. And the Aztecs, what have they done early game? Well, Aztecs, they start with 1 less settler than other civilizations. Like all TWC civs, they start with 1 less settler. So, kind of an issue for them, though they do start with a few more crates to kind of offset that, since a settler does collect 100 food in 2 minutes, and, you know, by the 4-minute mark, you've lost out on 200 food already. So, you know, that's completely reasonable, starting with extra crates here. Now going for 90 food, that's quite a nice treasure. Perhaps if the Aztec player hadn't managed to kill that explorer, then we'd be seeing this guy getting 90 food, 80 food, and 90 food as British. That's absolutely crazy, but that not happening. Anyway, finding 90 food, not too bad. Anyway, putting up a fire pit as his first building. Kind of like, in a way, I guess similar to building a market, in the sense that you're spending wood on something economical early on. Here, about to hit up, going through the messenger politician, as we can see here, sending these settlers forward to build a war hut, there we are. But essentially, this fire pit, for those of you who don't know, I imagine most of you will, but I have never casted a game of Aztecs on my channel before, so for those of you who don't know, fire pit, you can do various dances at it. Task your settler to the fire pit, and they'll dance, and the dance is different things. One of the dances is fertility dance, which increases the speed at which all units are trained, including settlers and fishing boats and military units and of the such. And the dance he's actually doing is the XP dance. He's gaining 1 experience point per second, which he has been doing for the entire time that has been up, which he would have got up fairly early. Now, compare that to a trading post. Trading post. Here we see Challe just hitting up just now, only just now, going with the 200 coin and a tower. But back to Garja, let's discuss him. On the Great Plains, a trading post will generate 1.3 experience points per second, and of course costs 200 wood. Therefore, your fire pit is quite nice. But it only generates 1 XP per second because there's this warrior priest on it. Aztecs start with a warrior priest. He's very good. Has a lot of hit points, can tank treasure guarding damage, do a bit of scouting. Not that great in age 1, only has 5 hand attack, but as you can see now has 15. It's much better in age 2, but by the time you reach age 2, you really aren't going to be doing as much treasure collecting as you once were. Better task to a fire pit, since of course he does act like a settler, but in fact has the efficiency of 2 settlers when dancing. So not too bad at all. That is why we see people like the Aztecs go for a early fire pit, because they do have that warrior priest. 5 war hut guys here, 5 coyote runners. We'll talk about coyote runners in a moment. They're kind of like cavalry coming in to do some raiding here. Is he going to kill any settlers? Not these ones here, but I see some 4 settlers up there. If he doesn't bring them back, they're going to lose. Doesn't have the market upgrade just yet. This isn't too good for him. This is why I prefer the market build. Is he going to lose a settler? I hope not. Aztec. Well, Aztec do a good job of raiding. British really don't want to be losing settlers, since, of course, building a manor, 135 wood for a settler, doesn't really sound like a great deal. But the Aztecs' first shipment here was 700 wood. You might have noticed he didn't have that much population with which to train units. So his first shipment was 700 wood with which to train houses. Threw down a bunch of houses. Also got the market and hunting dogs. You know, that costs wood as well. And coyote runners, they cost predominantly food, 85 food, but also 25 wood. So with that wood shipment, just going to spam coyote runners, apparently, all day long. Now has 2 batches of coyotes on the field. Here's one over here doing some damage against that settler. Is it going to go down? No, he's not going to fight that, of course. Doesn't want to take any shots from the musketeers. Really isn't worth taking damage. It's always worth just abandoning the settler, and only really best to go for ones that you can be able to kill without taking any damage. I did see a dead body on the floor there. He managed to kill 1 settler with this group. But, of course, raiding with 2 groups of cavalry. Well, I call them cavalry. Really, they're not cavalry at all. Coyote runners are definitely a very misleading unit. They're labeled as hand infantry and light infantry when really they just are not anything of the such that we would call hand infantry or light infantry. I'd call hand infantry pikemen and I'd call light infantry skirmishers. So 1, that doesn't really make sense. And 2, they function like cavalry in the sense that they move quite quickly. And they're actually countered, like musketeers counter them in the sense that they are cavalry. You see 13 damage multiplied by 3 versus cavalry, but actually times 2.3 versus light infantry. And of course, that refers to coyote runners and only coyote runners. Musketeers do not do times 2.3 versus skirmishers. Do not get that confused, people. I expect most of you know that, though, but just covering it, we haven't played Aztecs on this channel before. But yes, raiding in 2 groups, as I was saying, covers more ground that way. Perhaps he can kill a settler here. Is it worth stopping for? I mean, 3 pikemen, he's going to take damage from those, but if he can kill a settler and only lose perhaps the one or the one... Ooh, using a thief. But to be honest there, he could actually have engaged those pikemen since he had a fairly decent amount of coyote runners. Plus his war chief. Anyway, let's take a look at the shipments Garja has been sending. We see. Started with, of course, 3 settlers age 1. Then hit up 700 wood for the houses. Then sent, I believe, 3 warrior priests. Now has those. I'll talk about them in a moment. A little bit of engagement here. Don't think the British player wants to fight this just yet. Next, he sent 5 settlers to get that economy going. And then sent 10 Mace Halton, which are now on the field. So that gives him a little bit of an ability to deal with some of these musketeers and the pikemen, since Mace Halton are similar to crossbowmen. Now sending 9 Mace Halton. Perhaps he's going to push out soon. Perhaps. But yes, what he's been doing in this matchup. British like to boom. You can see the manners everywhere. And really, you don't want to let them do that. You have to be aggressive. That is why he has been sending coyotes into the base left, right, and centre. Scouting a dock here. Clearly, British is going to go water. I really want to switch over to the British player, but I ought to finish this train of thought first. Of course, raiding to stop the British player getting off his feet. And doing a very good job of that, killing a few settlers. Perhaps he's going to get these ones up here. He ought to have brought them back, but now coming in. Now only just responding. Has he got that market upgrade? No, still doesn't have the market upgrade. Going to lose some settlers. 1 down. 2 down. Is he going to lose the 3rd? Is 3 settlers going to go down? This isn't good for him at all. 3 settlers going down. Ouch. Could have been drastically reduced if he had the, of course, market upgrade. Get greatcoats, bro. Come on. Anyway, we saw 3 warrior priests. They're now dancing here, giving him an income of 4 experience points per second due to the dance. That's like the equivalent of 3 trading sites. That's crazy. And also sent 5 settlers. So, whilst raiding, also booming himself. Okay, so having the warrior priests configured to XP does help. I mean, it gets all of your shipments out sooner, and as we can see here, like the 10 Mace Halton and the 9 Mace Halton, and also the 5 settlers, it gets them all out quicker, but the real reason that we want warrior priests is they increase the potency of all the other dances. I mean, we can warrior priest boom by configuring the pit to spawn more warrior priests, or we can switch it to fertility to make more units, or we can have it really on the attack damage one that increases the attack damage of all our units. So getting them out sooner to help boom with the shipments coming, but then we can switch it to the attack damage dance when we push in. But yeah, the general principles of Aztec versus British here, raiding early on to kill some settlers whilst booming away with, of course, the warrior priests for quick shipments, which will give you a short-term bonus advantage, 5 settlers, and then kind of push in at an optimal time for a late colonial kind of time to push. I say sent 10 Mace Halton and 9 Mace Halton, then perhaps would push out, but I don't think he is going to do that since we see 3 trading post Travoises. So, going to be doing a bit more booming before pushing in. Fair enough. Anyway, here we have the trade Travois, who will interact with the trading post Travoises, who will turn into trading posts, and then we'll collect XP from the trade Travois. I hope everyone's confused. I love the trading post man. Travois man, I think he deserves a lot more respect than he gets. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. Anyway, let's switch over to Challe. Here we see he has gone for 700 wood, then 600 wood. Now, that is how British boom. They ship 700 wood first, crazy amounts of manners. Okay, pushing out here. I find this kind of odd since he did have the 2 docks, and really he's risking the yeah, okay. I just think he's a little bit out of position really, because if he's got docks going with the boat boom going, then I don't know. I just think it's worth sitting in your base, waiting for that economy to come to fruition before pushing out. And I think he is out of position. I see the Jaguar Prowler Knights from, of course, Garja. They are a big button upgrade from the home city. Costs 450 food. You get 3 of them, and they are crazy units. They do 18 hand damage times 3 versus heavy infantry such as pikemen, but also times 2 against cavalry. I don't even know what European unit that kind of compares to, but using the Jaguar Prowlers and the Mace Halton to quickly bring down all of the pikemen, meaning that those pikemen are not much of a threat to the Coyote Runners, since of course they've been taken down so quickly, and then the Coyote Runners are free to wreak havoc on the longbowmen. And I think if the British player had not went to siege out that longbowman, I mean, he did start walking back, he knew perhaps I shouldn't be here, and he didn't get all the way back enough though. If he'd been in his base the entire time, those Jaguar Prowler Knights would not have been able to snipe him as much, and he would not have lost as much army as he did. I think always safer to fight here where you've got a tower, settlers in your town centre, which can do good damage there, and also you can pop units at the barracks here. 5 longbow map to pop out is always safer because your unit replacement time, your units get back into the fight sooner, whereas if we compare, you know, Red's units, they have to walk from here to the fight, whereas Orange's units will just pop out next to the barracks and start fighting. But also Minutemen keeps you safe in your base, especially since you're boat booming. I think Garja doing a reasonable job of taking down Challe's units there, of course capitalising on the fact that he was out of position and being perfectly lucky, or perfectly skilly, however you want to call it, with calling 3 Jaguar Prowler Knights. He actually has 1 left there. Anyway, we ought to get up to speed on the units which Challe has been training. Let's go through his shipments. We see 700 wood, followed up by 600 wood, of course. A very nice way to boom with British. Spam up a lot of manners. Can do that quite easily. And then follow up that with the schooners. Now, 600 wood is not as good as 5 settlers with regards to booming, but if you're going to go for a boat boom on New England, 700 wood, 600 wood schooners is a fairly decent combination, and I know that is the order in which he sent his cards because I checked, and you won't notice the fact that I did check due to editing, but we see, after that he sent 6 longbowmen, I guess to kind of protect his boat boom. Of course, schooners as a card is good. It definitely saves you a lot of wood on boats, reduces the cost of boats by 60%. They cost 40 wood instead of 100. But to make that worthwhile, you need about 10 to 11 ships. And of course, that's going to take a while to train them, and you're really not getting any immediate bonus from it. Whereas if, say, he's now got 700 food on the floor, collect that up, you've immediately got 700 food, you could turn that into units pretty instantly, and the bonus, you see that come to fruition instantly. It's tangible, it's something you can use. Whereas schooners does not really do that. You might kind of suffer for a while until the boats kind of start generating the loss back, if you see what I mean. Therefore, 6 longbowmen is a reasonable shipment to help defend with. And I think maybe he thought, right, now I'm going to push out now the 6 longbowmen has arrived. And that's where he saw him trying to siege down this war hut. And then he retreated, and then he got absolutely gang-piled by 3 Jaguar Prowler Knights plus units. But here, perhaps this is the time to push out. Of course, Schooners has been on the field for a while now. 700 food has just arrived, and of course he's collected that up to make some units with.
So you've got a fairly decent mass, and he's kind of outmassing Garja in a way. I'd actually say his army is almost larger, and of course he does have 5 settlers on the field as well. Here, Garja lacking in Mace Halton. He only has a few. He has a lot of Coyote runners, but then there are a lot of pikemen there to deal with them. He's Orange is going to keep his pikemen back to protect, of course, the longbowmen from the Coyote runners. We see Garja bringing them in here, splitting them up into 2. This is clever, of course, forcing the pikemen to split into 2, and he's following them. Of course, he wants to chase the Coyotes down, because that's what pikemen are good against, doing times 3.5 versus them. But here, split some pikemen up over here, and these pikemen here, these Coyotes are going to go into hand combat since they've been separated from the main group. They're a lot weaker. You can snap 5 sticks, very difficult. Snap 1 stick, it's a lot easier, but then, oh, that really was a stupid analogy. But you get the idea here. Now just the pikemen coming back, and yes, they're going to do good damage against the Coyotes, but wow, really, definitely doing a very good job of neutralizing him here. We see him pulling back some of the longbowmen into the trees, but the majority were just out here in the open, and they got surrounded so quickly by the Coyotes. Of course, if he put them in the trees, then that would definitely create some pathing issues for his units, and it make the Coyotes, make them a lot more difficult for the Coyotes to surround the longbowmen, but he didn't do that, so not so good. And I think, really, Garja winning a fight there that really he shouldn't have won, or a fight that was quite even, and if they'd engaged, they would have ended up with similar units at the end. But really, I think Garja coming out on top there, absolutely, I love that, splitting his units into 2, it's great. Anyway. Alright, so Challe calling his Minutemen here, kind of pushing red away, and that kind of protects the few remaining units he has, but I do feel that it was a bit late. I mean, yes, it's cool, and now there's no way that Guy is going to want to go in there, since Minutemen are very strong, and they lose hit points over time, so there's no point fighting them. You might as well wait until they're low HP, but then I do think the Minutemen could have been called, anyway, it's irrelevant. Perhaps he could have called them not at all. Who knows if he'd have gotten away with that. The moment has passed. Here we see a bunch of boats. I should start talking about those, really. Here, I didn't notice him training these. Probably should have done. They are definitely going to stop Challe from fishing on the water. I can't believe I missed this. These cost 100 wood each, so he must have been training them for a while. We'll switch over to Garja. Doesn't have schooners, but does have offshore support, which increases all warship attack by 20% and also increases their range by 5%. These 2 canoes on their own are going to go down fairly easily to the caravels, but canoes are very strong when massed together, and they'll be able to definitely be able to take on these 2 caravels, especially since this warhut is shooting out 100 anti-ship damage versus these, and already this caravel has taken a lot of hit points worth of damage. But these canoes, once the caravels have been neutralized, basically if he keeps a few here and a few here, it's going to stop Orange from really fishing anywhere else. And there's only a few fish left here. I mean, yes, there's an infinite source of coin, but only you're allowed 4 gatherers on that whale, and then it's gone. And really, there's not a lot of use for these fishing ships once the food has run out, since he won't be able to gain access to the rest of the food on the map, perhaps down on this side, leaving Garja free to collect it himself. Though Garja won't be able to push much further in, since there is now a tower up, and he can garrison the Challe can garrison the fishing ships inside the dock. So yes, he can stop Orange from gaining access to the other fish, but he won't be able to directly push in. Now, I do think Orange ought to start taking the water himself at some point. We'll take a look at the shipments he sent. Pretty much everything in the colonial age now, including Coyote combat, see trading sites that we've seen, this offshore support, even exotic hardwoods. So getting ready, you know, that increases wood gathering by 20%. Perhaps here we might see a little bit of a fight, but I think, you know, Challe definitely been kept alive for quite a while by the fish, and I think Garja needs to think about taking fish himself. I think, yes, there's a fight getting on here. We'll take a look at this, and I'll continue what I was saying in a moment. But 2 caravels coming in here to do a little bit of damage. They're very good at countering units, believe it or not. It seems strange. The warships, the canoes here, are going to just focus these down fairly quickly, and that warhut also shooting down. A little bit of conflict here. There's the Puma Spearmen getting involved. Perhaps Challe ought to be adding in some cavalry, and I think Garja is maybe expecting that as well. I think cavalry would go a long way here from Challe, since there are a lot of Mace Halton there, and all Garja is really training is Mace Halton plus Coyote Runner. There's no direct anti-cavalry, though he did ship 6 Puma Spearmen, as you can see. I think a few cavalry would be good, since they do very well against Mace Halton, and Coyote Runners are by no means anti-cavalry. I mean, yes, they probably stand up to cavalry. They are kind of like cavalry themselves, but they aren't a direct counter. So I think, I don't know. I think cavalry could have done well in that fight, and as you can see, it's just very easy to spam units that cost food and wood, not having to bother with any coin production. It's just a fairly easy way to go. And I think, as you can see here, Garja overpowering Challe. It is starting to look a little bit ugly for him, though his score has been the same as Garja's almost the entire game, so he's not out of this yet. And here, losing his entire fishing mass. Not too good. I believe these boats are in the corner there, and these canoes are able to do a lot of damage. They are now in range of the tower, so they are protected in that respect, but not too good. Losing some settlers as well. I guess we have to compare economies in the moment. This is really not looking too good for him. Garja on 41 settlers, about to get schooners. We'll switch over to Challe on 49. So maintaining a settler lead here. He's not out of this just yet, but we have to bear in mind that the majority of those settlers are just boats, which he really can't do a lot with at the moment, since of course the rest of the fishing is kind of restricted. Here, taking a beating by Garja again. A lot of pressure here, though. He won't be able to stay long. His base isn't going to get sieged down just by the units here. Of course, that tower and the outpost definitely going to be enough to protect it. There are some units about to get trained and popped out. Of course, Garja is actually running out of food himself, so he's going to find it difficult to keep the pressure up. Both players are still here. They're not going anywhere. There's a war hut up here, and he's eating the last of the food. The only food he really has access to now is the few remaining berries in his base, which no doubt he'll go and get a little bit later on, and of course some fish. But there's not that much fish left in the water. We'll switch over to Challe. Sorry, stay on Garja. Yes, he's training a lot of fishing ships right now, but I don't know. It's like, you think about it, there's only like 1, 2, 3. There's probably no more cod left in there, and each cod has 500 food in it. There's no more cod than there would be perhaps bison in a bison herd, though we're not on the Great Plains, so deer in a deer herd. It's just, you know, a bison has 500 food in it, a deer has 400. The sea does not have as much food in it as we might think, but I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Switch over to Challe, see what he's doing. Sending exotic hardwoods, there's not really a lot else he can do. Still maintaining some raiding from Garja. Exotic hardwoods definitely going to help him out in the wood department, but you know, this fish upgrade not going to be that useful. Team Musketeer combat, Musketeer HP isn't going to be that useful. He's not training any Musketeers. Doesn't have these 2 cards. They're expensive. Not really a lot you can get from them in Age 2 either. Needs to go up to Fortress Age, but can't do that because if he did, he'd probably find himself being outmassed and then overpowered. Though his army, where is his army? It's not too bad. There's only a few Mace Halton over here. Actually, I do think Challe has a larger military than Garja at this point, so definitely not doing too badly. Definitely keep, you know, these raids, though, really, really not too good for him. Switch over to Garja. 32 settlers on Challe, 61 on Garja, and this is because now he's just spamming them out of both of his docks here. He's got the fertility upgrade, which gives you a plus 158% to train rate. And, of course, there's schooners for very cheap ships, though there isn't that much food left on the ocean, so it's questionable how worth it really is going to be, though. Certainly, you can't argue with the score gap that is starting to emerge, really starting to get ahead. He has the entire trade route. And raiding, just continuing to raid. I mean, late game, Challe losing so many settlers. His early game protection wasn't great either, but definitely taking a beating here. Not that his early game protection was bad, certainly did a good job of defending most of his settlers, just the few odd ones, you know, sometimes stragglers get hit off there and then, it's not too good. But really, I think you can see the score gap emerging, putting up a mill and there's no other source of food for him. We'll switch over. Guy has a lot of resources coming in. Challe just struggling to find food, about to run out of berries, popping up a mill, and he's called GG there. I mean, look at the score, 182. And he can't keep it up. He knows that his settlers are it's just not enough to keep this going. But definitely put up a good fight, and is not out of this best of yet. I would tell you the score, and I'd love to. Perhaps I'll put it in the description down at like 100 lines down the bottom, so you can read the description, but you won't ruin the score unless you really wanted to check or something like that. I just don't want to say it for people who get angry at me for ruining score. But thank you very much for watching. I have been Interjection, and I will see you next time for the next game between these two.